Hello there. How much time of your day do you spend barefoot? And how much time of the day do you spend with your feet closed in shoes? Shoes like leather shoes, formal shoes, high heels, or even just Converse sneakers that have like the front side of your foot relatively narrow. Why? Because the more time we spend with our feet in such closed and narrow shoes, our feet adapt. And when we work out, when we need power from the ground for our lifts, we would have so much better time if we could really spread our foot and harness much more power from the ground just by having a wider foundation. Just if you see this, much more narrow, and then if you can actually spread your toes wider. Today, I have for you a short sequence of very simple poses exercises precisely to relax and bring some more space into your foot, your feet, of course, as well as your ankles, because ankle mobility can be such a game changer, for example, in your squats. So let's get into it. You don't really need any material except for a towel. Grab yourself a towel or a blanket, something that you can roll up into a nice support precisely for your ankles, and then just something comfy to wear. Meet me on the mat. So we will be starting in the child's pose, but it will be a supported child's pose. Take your towel or your blanket and roll it as thick or less thick as you want. And I invite you to place it precisely underneath your ankles. Like so. This way, if your ankle mobility is challenging, this way you're helping yourself. Hips onto your heels, forehead to the mat, arms alongside of your body or arms in front of you. And if your forehead doesn't really touch the floor, no worries, you can just bring your forearms underneath your forehead. Whichever variation of child's pose works for you, I invite you to arrive and then take a big breath in with your nose. Fill up your belly, your chest up to your shoulders. Exhale completely. Allow your hips to sink heavier. Shoulders and head sinking heavier. And I invite you to check in with your body. How is your body doing today? How is your body doing right now? What are the sensations that are asking for your attention immediately right now? Maybe you'll notice some tightness somewhere, some soreness, tingling, pulsing. The touch of your clothes and your skin. The touch of the ground. And then whenever ready, I invite you to start noticing the sensations in your body of your breath as you breathe in and out. Where in your body do you feel this? Maybe your belly bulging against your thighs. Maybe your ribs expanding and contracting. Maybe the air coming in and out of your nostrils. For a few moments, I invite you to just notice these sensations and what is the rhythm of your breath.
And then at your own time, whenever ready, I invite you to start deepening your breath. Inhale with your nose, fill up your belly, your chest, up to your clavicles, up to your shoulders. And then exhale really slowly and with control, press all the air out. And then again, deep inhale and fill up your belly, your chest, up to your shoulders. And then exhale really slow. How long can your exhale be? And then 3 more big breaths. And then at your own time, whenever you're ready, next big breath in. I invite you to maybe slowly start rocking your hips from side to side, rolling your head from side to side, bringing some gentle movement to your body, noticing how are your ankles doing now after a good minute or two in this pose. And then whenever you're ready, you can inhale to stretch your arms in front of you, press the palms into the floor, lift the forehead off the mat, and press yourself up seated. From here, you can get rid of your towel or your blanket. And I invite you for a toe stretcher, literally. You would want to tuck your toes, all toes, big toes, all the way to your pinky toes on the floor, both feet. And then you're leaning forward on your hands for now because you were adjusting your toes. You might already start feeling good stretch in your feet, in your soles of your feet, already now. From here, you're going to regulate the intensity. More you lean forward, the less intensity. More you walk your hands closer towards your knees, onto your thighs, or maybe you sit all the way with full weight on your heels, the more intensity you're going to get of sensations in your feet. So adjust what is bearable for you or what is manageable for you for 10 breaths. And we are beginning with 10 breaths, okay? So big breath in, slow exhale out, the same slow, deep, nourishing breaths we just had in the child's pose a few seconds ago. The same slow, deep, nourishing breaths. You want to count now for 10. And as you're focusing on the breath and counting your breath, I invite you to also focus on the sensations in your feet. And just by the way, because I'm sitting with the hips completely seated on the heels doesn't mean that you have to do that. You can be very much wherever your position, your adaptation works. And now we're getting somewhere to breath 5, 6. I invite you to check back in with the sensations in your feet. How is it going? Do you feel you can take more for the next 3, 4 breaths, meaning sit further back up? Or do you feel that the sensations are getting a little bit too intense because we are staying there for a relatively long time? So maybe you might need to ease out a little bit and take a little bit less intensity. So adjust, don't hesitate to do so. And then 3 more big breaths wherever you are. Again, checking in with the sensations in your feet, in the soles of your feet. Last big breath wherever you are. And then at your own time, whenever you're ready, you can shift your weight completely forward, lean onto your hands, undo the tucking of your toes. And you can sit back for a second, once again on your heels. This toe stretcher pose, you want to slowly build up to be able to stay there for 1 minute, 2 minutes, maybe 3. the thing is, the longer you stay, the more intense it's going to be. So that's why it was really important to show you so that you can choose the intensity. But you really do want to get and work up your time to 2 minutes to really feel the difference. But I'm sure you're feeling it already now. Next, we are going to stretch the ankles and the shin. You want to stay seated with your hips on your heels, knees together or a little wider apart. And maybe already seated like this is going to be enough of a challenge for your ankles like this. Maybe you need more. That's where you would want to lean back and back and back until your knees might start lifting off the floor. So find, again, your intensity, the same way we were finding the intensity in the toe stretcher, like how far do you need to go in order to feel a good, satisfying stretch. Same thing here. Hips onto your heels and lean as far back as you need until you find a good stretch and challenge in your ankles, in the tops of your feet. And once again, you would be staying here for 7 to 10 big breaths. So choose wisely your adaptation and then start counting your breath. And as you're counting your breaths, observe the sensations. Notice, how does it feel in your feet, in your ankles? Slowly we are getting to breath 5 or 6. So how are your feet doing? How are your ankles doing now? Do you want more intensity? Walk further back. Do you want less intensity? Walk closer in. Adjust if you need. Last 3-4 breaths.
Yeah.
And then at your own time, whenever ready, last breath. And slowly you can press yourself up, seated. Next, downward facing dog. Hands underneath your shoulders, tucking your toes once again. And then you lift your knees off the floor, press the hands down and forward so that your hips send your hips back and then up. And you want to adjust your feet as wide as your hips. You really want to squeeze your shoulder blades together to open your chest towards your knees, but you don't necessarily want to be stretching your knees. Like, the idea is not that like you have to straighten your legs and then your back rounds. No, no, no. Keep your knees bent as much as you need. You really want to have your back nice, long and straight. But we're going to be focusing on the ankles. You will want to be kicking your heels down towards the floor, but it's not going to happen by straightening the knees. It's going to happen by flexing your ankles. So keep your knees bent and really just kick the heels down towards the floor. You will very much feel this in your calves. And that's where you want to stay for, again, 5 big breaths minimum, ideally 10. And so if your mobility in your hamstrings, okay, this has nothing to do with your ankles or your calves. If your hamstrings actually allow you to straighten your knees and your heels are already on the floor, I invite you to really flex your feet extra and lift your toes off the floor. But in case your ankle mobility is the challenge and your hamstrings don't allow, keep your knees bent, absolutely don't worry, and focus really on kicking the heels down towards the floor. If they don't touch, that's okay. 2-3 more big breaths wherever you are, kicking the heels lower. Every exhale, 1 millimeter lower and lower and lower. Really feeling the engagement. There's nothing relaxing about this pose. It looks like nothing, but you're working hard. Pressing the heels closer and closer. And then whenever ready, last breath. And then you can exhale to bend your knees, bring them down to the floor. untuck your toes. And we're going to close in child's pose, but this time not supported. And just, I invite you to feel the difference. Hips onto your heels, forehead to the mat, arms alongside of your body or in front of you, or forearms underneath your forehead if you need, or if you prefer. And I invite you to stay here again, 5, 7, or 10 big breaths. And every exhale, I invite you to focus on dropping your hips heavier, closer towards your heels. At the same time, dropping your shoulders, your head heavier, closer towards the floor. And notice how everything feels in your feet, in your ankles. Last 2, 3 breaths wherever you are. And then whenever ready, next big breath in. You can stretch your arms in front of you, press the palms into the floor, lift the forehead off the mat, and slowly walk yourself up seated. So there you go. A short sequence for your feet, for your ankles. Notice how are they doing. Thank you for tuning in this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.